Welcome to Rapid Harmony. I'm Kyle Emmanuel Brown. This is a space for high-achieving souls who want more than outcomes. You want resonance, you want truth, you want a life that moves with purpose instead of pressure. Here, we explore success with the soul and direction with depth. We slow things down just enough to hear your own wisdom again. We breathe, we question, we remember the part of you that never needed permission to leave. Every conversation is an invitation to trust yourself more than the noise around you, and live from that clarity that rises when you stop forcing and start listening. Take a breath, settle in, let's begin. So, why are so many high-performing people destroying their health in the name of optimization? And why does the body actually get sicker the harder we try to hack it?
It's this spiral that we get into, Kyle, where we're just trying to do more and more. And we think that we add on these layers that we're going to somehow get to that base layer, which is all the way down there. We forget that's actually there. That's where we need to get to. All this other stuff we put on top. It's like this big ball of shit. It doesn't seem like it, right? Because like, oh, this seems cool. This seems cool. Let's do this. And you're all the way up here and you're like, oh man, where am I? What's going on? And like, where is the base of all this? Where's my foundation? And so the key is to simplify. Yes. And if we can simplify, that's when we can drop in. But if we're all the way just looking for the next thing, especially if we don't have a framework on how to think about it, because it's so easy to like, oh, this looks cool. Oh, that looks cool. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this. And then, oh, I need to do this. And then it just becomes this sort of like round ball of shit.
Yes.
Round. I don't know. It's some sort of, I'm thinking round, but
it's like the boogosphere of
it's,
shit.
It's something. It's like a big booger. Yeah. It becomes like this unwieldy pile of something where you don't even know where you're supposed to be, because it's all kind of been confused by this train that you've been on for a long time.
I love it. I used to have about a 2-minute window from when my morning rituals stopped and my afternoon rituals had to start. And during those 2 minutes, I think those were my healthiest minutes of my day. So
we get so wrapped up in these things, right? And as they talk about, like, even meditation is a crutch. That's even what you talk about with meditators and with teachers, is like, but it's a way for you to create space to change how you examine your mind. So that's a good thing, right? But then if you become, oh, I'm a meditator, or I'm whatever it is, like you fill in the blank, like then that's the role that you're always playing. And then it becomes its own ego trip.
and religion.
Yes.
So we're living in a moment where people have trackers, they have data, they have supplements and protocols more than any other time in history. Yet people tend to be more anxious, more exhausted, and more trapped in what you refer to as the sympathetic spiral of doom.
Yeah.
So the harder the push, the more they get their nervous system together. So if you're listening today, this is why you're here. This is why this matters today. And my guest is Dr. Scott Sherr. He's a pioneer in performance medicine, hyperbarics, and human potential. He's helping redefine health by blending science, spirit, and consciousness. And as you can see, a really practical approach to it all and some good laughs. His company, Transcriptions, they make precision products for energy, focus, sleep, and stress. And today's conversation, we're going to move really beyond biohacking into something a lot deeper. I love your name for it. I refer to it like bioharmony, just playing on the rapid harmony, but I'm excited to get into it. And here's where I want to start. You know, when you look at these high achievers today, like a lot of the people who are going to be listening to this episode today, what's the number one thing you see their bodies trying to tell them that they're just not listening to?
Calm the fuck down. It's simple, man. Like, it's simple. Like, as you were reading, it was reminding me of a friend of mine. We were having a conversation. He had a patient. I've had patients like this too. And he was asking his patient, well, how did you sleep last night? He's like, oh, my Oura ring told me I slept really well. I'm like, well, how do you feel? Like, how do you feel, man? Like, not what just your ring told you. like we become so focused on the data and the metrics, we forget that there's like a human being that's feeling, seeing, sensing, touching, tasting, all those kinds of things. And so we become further removed of that intuitive side of things. But I think trackers could be very helpful, especially when you're first starting to going through your journey, understanding like how well do you sleep? Well, what happens when you drink alcohol? It's going to trash your sleep, right? And you get these sort of feelings, but then like, oh, my Oura ring tells me I can work out right now, or my Oura ring tells me that I slept really well. I don't know. I think it does. Like, and so the main thing that I tell high achievers all the time is that data is good, but no data is also good, because that no data allows you the space to figure out shit on your own. And what I mean by that is like, it's not the more that we do, it's less that we do, right? And so learning how to turn off that sympathetic spiral, right? You were mentioning that. And this is like very common for entrepreneurs, very common for people that, Americans, I think not just Americans, Israelis too, everybody, like where it's like, as a good example, when I was in medical school, we had shirts made that said sleep is for quitters, right? You'll sleep when you're dead, right? It's the hustle culture that's real. Like the more you do, the more people will acknowledge that you're putting in the effort, right? That's right. Even if it's like ridiculously stupid shit you're doing, it doesn't matter because you're doing it, right? You're rocking it, you're hustling, right? And so it's hard, right? Because if you're building a business and a startup, it's like, it can be difficult to go, oh wait, is all of this really necessary, right? But if you just start taking a step back and giving yourself some time away from your trackers, some time away from your computer, and some time to actually like focus on being with you, being with this avatar that you occupy. And then you go back to that stuff afterwards. You're going to do that stuff much better afterwards, I promise. But like being able to balance and what I call oscillate from that sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, to your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. Being able to go back and forth dynamically, that's the key to really optimizing your health.
So stress plus rest equals growth is a transformational equation. When you're talking about the oscillating back and forth, is it that combination of, based on the idea that the body adapts to any stress you put upon it, is that combination of do this in a way that can stress the body to get it to grow and expand, but then also give it time to repair, recover?
That's a perfect analogy, right? Because if you're like, the exercise analogy is a great one, right? People think that they build muscle in the gym. They don't. They build muscle when they're recovering from their workout, and they build new muscle afterwards. But if you go from the gym to meetings all day long, to taking care of your kids, and then just, passing out in the middle after the end of the day, there is no time to rest in there, right? And so you're not going to get that protein synthesis. You're not going to see the benefits of your workout. And this is actually common. I've seen it a lot where I have people that are like, I'm working out all the time, I'm not building my muscle. I'm like, well, are you recovering well? And the answer is no, they're not. And so it's the same thing with any comparison in life. If you're going from one stressful thing to the next stressful things without having that parasympathetic balance, you're not going to be able to see your recovery. You're not going to be able to see your stress come down. Your sleep's going to get trashed over time. You're not going to feel like you're showing up anymore over time. Like we can go get away with it for a while, especially when we're younger, but eventually things start crashing. And it might not be like a full crash, hopefully initially. It might just be like, oh, like I'm not sleeping as well. What's happening? I don't feel rested in the morning. Like, oh, what? I feel like wired and I tired at the same time. Or like my brain is just, why am I so much more reactive? Like, why am I yelling at my children? Like small little things. Like you're like, why am I doing this stuff? And then you don't realize it's because you're not giving yourself any time to recover.
I love that. And as a former workaholic,
recovering
workaholic.
Yes.
Yeah. WA, I guess would be the acronym. I was the guy who would work 80 to 110 hours a week. And for me, part of my medicine, it's not a tracker or a wearable, but it is worn, is this little guy here, which is very unassuming, which is a royal python's spine. And it's all snake medicine, which is all about shedding what doesn't serve you.
Okay, nice.
And Cleopatra wore one too, which was, she was still pretty good at achieving and finding time to still make kids and do all those things. And I'm curious, you've worked with these elite performers for years. And I'm curious, what is the moment when you can tell someone's crossed over from this healthy ambition into just self-destruction and addiction with all this stuff?
It's a difficult question to answer. I think that it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. Mm-hmm. What I would say is that it's almost like having an addiction to something that's bad for you, like alcohol, for example. Whereas you've been doing fine, you're drinking, no problem, but then you're not sleeping as well, and then you're not doing as well at work, and then your relationships aren't as good. These things don't typically happen overnight. It's like a small, slow burn. Mm-hmm. Whereas an alcoholic, you could be a functional alcoholic for a long period of time until things just fall off the rails, right? And it's just like you're functionally addicted to work until things start falling off the rails. And it might be slow thing. It's usually going to be something small first. It's not usually something to be like a crash and burn for most people.
Right.
Some people it will be. As a clinician, I can see this happening before it even starts manifesting, because I can look at laboratory testing and I can look at their gut. I can look at their cellular function. I can look at their neurotransmitters. I can look at their hormones and go, if you don't do something now, you're in for a world of hurt coming up. And I don't say it that way, of course, but I can see it physiologically that their body is starting to decompensate. What happens is that we're really good. Our human form, our anatomy and physiology is very good at compensating for a very long time. This is why somebody can eat McDonald's for like a year and not die, unless they do. But in general, like we can compensate for a long period of time until we can. A lot of this depends on your own genetic makeup too. Mm-hmm. Some people can smoke and drink until they're 100 years old. Some people can smoke and drink and die at 25, right? And so I have a colleague of mine that calls it like this sort of bucket, this toxic bucket that we have. And that some people have small ones, some people have very large ones. And you know who those people are because usually they've had family members that have lived a very long time. So they can just get smashed by stuff over the years and still bounce back much better than somebody else that can't. And so, fun fact, most of you don't belong into the longevity category where you're going to be doing anything to yourself and be fine.
Right.
Most of you people are going to start crashing much earlier than that. And then because of how society is, like we have so much stress, so much toxic exposure, so much stress, so much toxic exposure, like all the time, especially even as kids. And so it builds up much younger now in kids and adults. And so I'm seeing people much younger starting to burn it out and seeing decompensation. But from an elite performing perspective, I have a good example would be an NBA athlete that I work with. He, top of his game, right? But then I saw his labs. I'm like, dude, if we don't do something about this now, your career is going to be over in 5 years, right? And I've seen this a number of times where like, it's not just a crash like and burn, but it's like, oh, I get this injury and I'm not healing as well as I used to. Like, oh, I got a bad night of sleep and now I'm not recovering in one night, I'm recovering after a week. Or I had a slice of pizza that wouldn't be a problem for me typically. And then I feel crappy for 3 days, right? And so these are just signs that the system's starting to break down.
I love it. And I also see on the other side of it, I'm really curious your take on this, is that the cleaner the vessel gets, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, the more sensitive somebody is to something that is foreign.
This is true.
And I'd love to hear a little more on why. And as an example, I can microdose and feel a medium dose on anything from a psychedelic to a scoop of ice cream, you name it. Just my system in all of those bodies is extraordinarily sensitive the more I focus on the light being that I am.
Okay. So there's a couple different ways to approach this. I think the more standard American way of approaching this, we'll go there first, is that if you always feel like shit, that's what you're used to feeling like, right? And so, cool, fine, right? That's what you're used to.
It's your baseline.
That's your baseline, right? But you don't know you feel like shit because this is your baseline. Like this is how you feel every day. Like you wake up feeling the way you do. And then as soon as you start optimizing the system and feeling better, and having like a better diet, a better relationships, better lifestyle, whatever it might be, and then and you have something like back to where you were before, like say you go have that slice of pizza again, right? You feel like shit. You think it's worse than it was originally when you were always eating like shit? The answer is no. Probably not. It's probably very similar. But you don't realize that you are at a higher level now.
So you got the breath.
So that you don't remember how it used to feel being that way. So the first thing I always say, and actually my dad used to tell me this as a kid because I grew up son of a chiropractor, like always very healthy. And it's like, yeah, if you're healthier and you have these kinds of exposures, you're going to feel it more because you know what it feels like to feel good, right? Or feel better at least, right? And so a big thing is that the cleaner you get, the more optimized you get, the more sensitive you will be to these kinds of exposures. If the goal would be to that you're more resilient as well. So that even if you feel like shit for an hour, you don't feel like shit for 7 days, right?
Right.
If you're more optimized over time, right?
That's right.
The other non-standard American way of answering this question is that, as you were describing it, right? If you're vibrating at a higher frequency, you're more sensitive to lower frequency shit. So when you get exposed to that stuff and your vibration goes down,
right,
you are like very sensitive to that because you're rocking at a vibration, whatever that level is. And then all of a sudden, like you're rocking at like a 10% or 20% lower. It's like, that sucks. Right.
Yes.
So you can think about it in either direction. It's like the same thing in just different ways of saying it.
I love it. And you are a unicorn who was both Western trained and also grew up with some pretty tapped in, tuned in individuals in your household. And
Indeed, yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit about, that journey. So tell me what was the catalyst?
What can I say on TV or on video? No, so
on this video, we are a consciousness friendly audience. So you can say, when I was in a country where this was legal.
Yeah. So I think the best way to describe it is that I grew up with a father that grew up in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, when I grew up, I thought he was just absolutely crazy. Like, he talking to dead people and talking about all these metaphysical kinds of things. Right. And I didn't understand or believe a lot of that as a kid. I'm like, you're just a crazy dad. Right. But then I've had my own journey in places where it was okay to have these journeys, of course. Right. And understanding that, this sort of plane of existence and what we understand and observe is a very different experience from what we actually believe that we understand and observe. And so I think for me, it's been kind of a cool, coming home, as if you want to call it that way, of understanding, what is reality, what is real, right? Like the classic Matrix line, right?
Yes.
And so I think that my journey as I work with clinicians, as I work with patients, and in my own companies and things like that, has always been like, well, reality is just what you believe it to be. And it's all very moldable, and more moldable than you think it is. Like, we're all in this sort of, journey where we think that we are really all that important, and we're really not that important, like you depending on where you are in the world, in your life, if you're depressed, then like you are the universe. But if you have a huge ego, you are nothing, it just depends on the day. Right. And so having that understanding is very helpful when you're working at a company, working with patients, being a parent, and you can forget it sometimes and just, get involved in your own shit too. That's okay.
I love it. That's, I call it the microscope versus the telescope.
Sure.
And that if you're looking too far down that microscope, everything is really big and important. And then you just got to zoom out. And the further you zoom out, you still want to be engaged. You may zoom out a little bit too far and don't have your feet grounded here on Earth anymore.
Sure.
So it's finding that nice little balance between the two. And I love it. And a lot of times the reason why people are pretty tapped into the, face down in the microscope, stressed out, depressed, and they need to hear that they are extremely important. They're not just the drop of water in the ocean, but their whole ocean in one drop.
Right.
Is their nervous system is thrashed.
Yeah.
So what I call their patience fuse is like the tiniest little wick on the end of a firecracker.
Yep. Yeah. And that's that sympathetic spiral that we talk about, right? Because if you don't acknowledge where you are because you don't know where you are, which is mostly what happens, is that you're so much more reactive to everything, right? And you have very little reserve if anything else happens. And I've been there. I've been there like a couple of weeks ago when it's like, I don't think I have any more capacity, and all of a sudden something else happens like, well, okay, do I have that capacity? Right. And then, if you're already burnt,
Yep.
you're not going to be able to raise and to get there. Right. And so this is, we call it, actually, there's a term for it. It's called sympathetic reserve, actually.
Okay.
So the idea is that if you think about it from an exercise perspective, because everybody knows exercise, or most people do. If you go into a workout and you're already hyper stressed and you're already like, your muscles are already like this, you're not going to be able to lift as much weight because you're already so hyper stressed, right? And then you don't have a lot of reserve to go any higher than that, right? But if you're already coming from a lower place, you're chill, you're relaxed going into a workout, your capacity, your delta, your change is going to be massively more. And you get a lot more benefit from that workout because instead of going like this, just a little bit top that you could be as you're already sympathetically dominant, you're coming from a lower place and you have this much more capacity that you can load your muscles. And as a result of that, how much more change you're going to make. Right. And so that's what I try to remind my patients and me, and the same thing is like, you want to have that capacity at a low, and so that you have a lower set point and then you have more capacity on top of that. You have more sympathetic reserve. And so when you need to like get shit done and like do the work or whatever it is, right? Or like, it could be for your family, it could be for work, it could be for anything, for exercise, then you have this additional delta that's available to you that's massive compared to this small little tiny little bit that you can only do if you're already always in sympathetic dominance. And that could be, it just translates to almost anything in life, right? It could be the next project at work. It could be the next kid to come into your room and ask you a question. Like it could be any number of things. Like, it just really depends on the person, but the sympathetic reserve is only built with practice and understanding that we need to learn how to drop ourselves into parasympathetic. Mm-hmm. And many of us have forgotten what it feels like. We can bring people back there. It can be very easy actually to do that. We can use supplements to do that. We can use, various molecules. That's the easiest way. You can also do it with meditation, mindfulness, breath work, yoga. You can do all those things. But if you tell somebody that's hyperstimulated right now, oh, let's do some breath work, they'd be like, fuck you, I'm not doing breath work. Like, what are you talking about? Right. So what I found at least is that bringing people into this, what I call a GABAergic state. So GABA is our primary neurotransmitter in the brain that calms down the firing of the brain. Mm-hmm. It's the brakes of your brain. So if I can enhance their GABA system, make them feel that sympathetic downregulation so that their parasympathetic nervous system comes back online, then they know where there is. Like, oh, that's what it's supposed to feel like. I've forgotten what that feels like. And then they can do breath work. They can do meditation. They can do a psychedelic journey. There's lots of different things. And also they can try to understand like the bigger picture was like, well, why am I all the ways up here? Right. And then is that because I have a toxic relationship, a toxic job? I have toxic things in my life otherwise, or I've had trauma or other kinds of things either recently or previously that have just shot my nervous system and I don't feel safe anymore, right? But that stuff takes longer to heal. It takes longer to address. But what I can do now for people is how can I downregulate your nervous system now? And then give you the sensation, the feeling of safely dropping into that. And so that you know where there is. We talk about like in meditation, there's no there, right? But in parasympathetic nervous system activation, oh, there totally is a there.
Yes.
Totally. Right. Yes. And that's what we're trying to, all of us really want to be there more. We just don't realize it. We all think that we just need to like hard charge all the time, as you know, and I know, right? It's like, just do more and more and more, as we talked about in the beginning. But dropping down, you actually can perform better and be more able to understand what's the most important thing to do right now, as opposed to getting overwhelmed by all the things that everybody has to do all the time.
I think one thing that we've spoken about other times that I think is valuable right here is this idea, you can call it a parasympathetic sandwich, maybe even, which is if you're looking in the course of routine, I'm a big win your day first before my kids get up and take everything. And I know you've got twice as many kids as me. So you've got,
I win my evenings. I don't win my days. I don't win my mornings because I don't get up as early as you do.
Exactly. But you're still winning. It's important. So in terms of people waking up and setting up order and structure of ritual, I know one of the things you've brought up before is the idea of, post-resistance calmness of sorts, which could be either a small meditation or going in the sauna, doing things like that before you get back into the the fire of the workplace, even if you're the one running your own business, there's enthusiasm is still excitement and is still going to get that nervous system going. So why? I know a lot of people think, well, I meditate and then I go work out and I go straight into work. For me, since this input, I meditate, I go work out, and then I'll just get really calm in my sauna. So before I go start work. So tell me a little bit about the flow of that and the why.
Well, the why is very simple. Again, we make our biggest gains and have our biggest reserve if we're in parasympathetic mode. Mm-hmm. And so if you can get yourself there more often, you have more reserve to do the things that require more energy, more focus, more getting shit done. And so the oscillation, what I call oscillation, is like going back and forth, sympathetic, parasympathetic, because that's what our nervous systems are supposed to do. Mm. But we're not supposed to be in sympathetic all day long. And if we are, we're depleting hormones, we're depleting neurotransmitters, we're causing significant stress on our mitochondria, we're causing mitochondrial dysfunction, which is the part of our cells that makes energy. And so that we're actually able to make less energy over time, even though we're trying to make more energy. And so, I learned about this, it's been interesting because there's lots of ways into this for people, but I think the biggest one is exercise, because most of us want to exercise, but we don't realize that we have to recover from the exercise that we do so that we can drop that nervous system down and actually build muscle and get more cardiac function, cardiac optimization and things like that. So for me, the oscillation is important. So when people exercise, okay, just take 5 minutes afterwards. Just follow your breath for 5 minutes with some exhales that are extended. Mm-hmm. That's it. Nothing big. It doesn't have to be 2 hours of meditating on a cushion. Right. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about some small amounts of things. And then I think you and I have talked about this too, where I'm a big fan of these sort of micro meditations, these sort of micro moments, right? Where you just take a second to feel your feet on the ground, feel your hands, and then go back to what you're doing, right? Just for a second, come out of that mind-focused place and come back into the body. And so I think that's something that I try to do as well and talk to my patients and clients about.
I love that. And what's so interesting is as we hear these things, they feel like, oh, that's intuitive. That's really good. But I think the culture has been the opposite. So performance culture, it celebrates the exact stress patterns that shut down our intuition, our digestive, our immunity, our sleep, our creativity. And then even in, we'll call it social performance, like what you wuss, you have a low tolerance. I'm like, I have a low tolerance to poisoning myself? Yes, thank you. I'm happy I do. Why do you think it is that way? And what the heck can we, civilized individuals do about it?
Well, I think it's a complicated question. Where we want to start is obviously just modeling the behavior that we wish to have in ourselves, and then showing people what that looks like, how you show up, how you perform, how you run your companies, how you parent your children, how you are a partner to your partner, all those kinds of things, right? And I think the biggest breeding ground for this is just, in your own children, right? And understanding that when you show up in this way, it's obvious that there's a shift in them. If you show up in the reactive stress mode, they know it, right? And they will react in those ways that you're giving them the opportunity to react, right? So I think we can't, it's one of those things, Kyle, as I work with a lot of people, right? It's what is it, leading horse to water kind of thing, right? You can show people the way,
right?
But you can't make them dunk their fucking head in the water, right?
That's
It's
right.
It's up to them, And I think the other part of it is that another, great movie, Inception, with Leonardo DiCaprio, it's it has to come from them.
That's right.
I can't tell somebody to do something if they're not ready to do it. And I could show them the way. I have a client of mine, nice guy, wanted to work with me, independently wealthy. And he's like, it's cool. This sounds great, but I'm not going to give up eating pizza. I was like, okay. He's like, I'm going to eat once a week. It's a family event. We all have pizza. I eat entire pie. He eats entire pie. And I was like, okay, but you understand that the work that we're going to do together is going to be, challenged because you're going to be doing this even once a week. I'm like, yeah, even if you do it once a week. Yeah. And but I was willing because he seemed motivated, and I was like, okay, let's see how this goes, right? And so, every month or so when I talked to him, or however, I think it was every 3 months or something, I was like, well, how you doing? He's like, I feel great, and then I eat pizza, and then for like 3 days I feel terrible. I'm like, okay, tell me more. He's like, I'm thinking I'm gonna go every 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, sounds good, And then after a period of time, it's like same shit. He's like talking to me. He's like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna eat pizza anymore. I'm like, okay. Sounds great. So, it's a very small singular analogy, but it's like, it has to come from you when you're ready. Right. And as a clinician, it's pretty evident to me where people are on that. And my real role is to give them the path, lay it out for them, and then let them take it when they're ready. And like, they're paying me a lot of money. So it's up to them. I'm very clear with them. I try to only really work with people that say that they're ready for this, right? But even across that spectrum, like there's like ready is spectrum, right? And I also know that I have the capacity to work with people that may be on that spectrum a little bit even earlier on than they even realize that, they're earlier on that spectrum and they think that they're not ready for certain things, but they really are, And I can kind of piece that out pretty quickly. But then I give them ways to feel better now. I give them something to calm down their nervous system. I give them something to give them more focus. I give them something to help them sleep. I give them something, like small little things to do during the day that like, oh, what this guy, oh, he knows what he's talking about. And then from there, it's like, okay, buy-in, good. Now we can do some of the harder work, right?
That's right.
So you give people sort of these like micro wins, right? And sometimes it's super easy. Sometimes it's not as easy, but sometimes it's like, most of the time it's super easy. It's like just doing something a little bit different, right? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you mean all I had to do was like be off my screen for 30 minutes instead of 5 minutes at night? And then I have deep sleep that goes up by an hour, it's small things can go a long way. And so that as a clinician, like I'm really trying to piece that out, right? Like what are the small things that I can do? And then I think we need to lead them there, but in the end, it's up to you. It's up to them,
Right. Proselytizing doesn't go very far. I think a lot of times with the proselytizing, they're like, thanks for the free food.
Yeah,
that's about it. And then they're heading out.
Yeah. It's like, if you didn't pay for it, you don't care about it. Right. Like, yeah,
that's right. But
yeah.
but that leading by example is a really essential piece of the puzzle. Comes with an interesting piece. Like you said with your dad, sometimes when they're leading by example, you may think they're nuts at first. And then there's a spectrum of time that we pass that we start to go, wait a minute, there's the fine line between genius and insanity.
Indeed. And we're all kind of working that line as the more personal work that you do, the more you're walking the line, right?
That's
because the line is always going to be there. And then people are going to think you're crazy, especially the more that vibration goes up and that line is a little bit higher. And then, it's like, it's interesting, right? Because you always have to, and then you have to navigate it in various ways.
So I'm a big harmony guy, right? My business is called Rapid Harmony. Podcast is Rapid Harmony.
Yep. You like the word.
Words.
You like the word. I like it.
But the problem is a lot of people mistake moderation for harmony.
Yeah.
And to me, my definition of moderation that I always use back when I was doing fitness and nutrition for, the celebs and pro athletes in that world was, I would say moderation is justification for your current poor behaviors. Because I would have one person who says, I drink moderately. And that was twice a week, maybe 2 drinks. I had another person, I said, I drink moderately, and it was 6 or 7 drinks a night. And they, in their own ethos, they believed I drink moderately. Mm-hmm. So it was whatever their current behavior is. So I do think that's a place where these data metrics can really serve a nice little purpose 100%. Because it can pull it away from them and they can see it relative to others. I'm just curious your take on moderation and kind of how to work around that game of that word that simplifies everything that we do, basically.
Yeah, it's such a weasel word in some ways because in general, in the performance biohacking optimal performance space, you have people that are just like militantly against certain things and militantly for other things. That's also not healthy, right?
That's right.
So that's like the extreme opposite of moderation. It's like, no, carnivore until I die, or like vegan until I die. I can't believe you kill animals, or like I will exercise only this way because this is the best way to do it. And this is the most awesome way. And so it's hard because you either fall into 2 categories. One that's like, moderation is the best way to go. And one is like, no, I'm extreme everything, right? And it's like, it's very difficult to navigate these windows because in general, although moderation is a kind of a word that I don't like, that's kind of what we want to do. Like we want to be able to kind of do various things and oscillate back and forth and not always do one thing one way and always do one thing the other way. So, for example, like when the ketogenic diet came out as a big thing, it's like everybody's keto. And now the protein is king. Everybody's high protein, right? And it's like, but that's not really what we should be doing. Like we should be really looking at what we need as an individual and then balancing and optimizing to that. And that's what I do in my practice. That's what I try to do with the companies too, is like we bring out products that are trying to help people drop into what they need at that moment. And the big thing about health, and this you might like this actually. So Dr. Ted, he's the founder of our nonprofit called Health Optimization Medicine. He's also the founder of our company Transcriptions, and he created this definition of health, which I like, and it's health equals A plus B plus C. Health, so A is equals the absence of disease. So that's number one. B is the balance between what's called anabolism and catabolism, basically the body building up and the body breaking down. Okay. As we get older, we get more catabolic. Right. And that's why we need to really work on keeping our muscle strength and overall our performance. And the C is an important one, which is the cycle of life. Like, where are you in the cycle of life right now? Are you pregnant? Are you breastfeeding? Are you a child? Are you a human just looking for longevity, right? And so then dialing in your diet, your lifestyle, your foundational health compared to where you are on that spectrum, right? And so I'm much more of a personalization kind of guy, right? And so I don't think everybody should be keto. I don't think everybody should be carnivore. I don't think everybody should be fasting. These can be all very good metrics. But I think the key for this is having a data-driven approach, like you said, could be very helpful, right? Like your data is showing X, let's optimize you so you're doing these things to optimize so you can get to where you want to go, depending on what your goals are. And so I think the way through this is actually data. So then you can say, you're drinking moderately 3 times a week, but your sleep is trash. Your sympathetic nervous system is terrible. So let's stop drinking, right? And then, or maybe go down to once a week, right? And then let's call that moderate or whatever, right? So I don't use the word moderation. I use like data-driven personalization.
Yes, I love that.
With a strong foundation in being present in the moment and the awareness, that the piece of things that's very, very important too.
And what I love about that is that it all still comes back to intention.
Yeah.
And I think in so much of this stuff, people will see something. It's usually sold by fear because fear sells better.
It does.
And then the intention's out the window. And I'm curious your take on this. The idea that we'll use the word biohacking because it's known colloquialism now. Do you think there's ways in which it's accidentally taught people to fear their own biology instead of trust it?
I mean, there's a word called orthorexia. Have you heard this word?
Yeah.
So anorexia is the fear of eating food to get fat. Is fat woke now? Can I say fat? I don't know. Anyway, large.
Large and in charge.
Orthorexia, nice. Orthorexia is the fear of eating anything that's bad for you. And that's where things have gone in this world. Or the orthosomnia, the fear of having a bad night's sleep, that your Oura ring is going to tell you had a bad night of sleep, right? So the fear of like the anxiety around like, what's your ring going to tell you in the morning, right? And so there is certainly, like everything in American culture, it's just the overcorrection, right?
Yes.
It's like something is good. Let's do more of that something. Let's do a ton of that something. And then it becomes like having 17 bananas instead of 1, right? It's like, guys, come on, right? And then, so the idea here, that moderation thing, right, is like, the idea is that data can be helpful, that extreme anything is likely bad for you over the long term. Right. Extreme religious beliefs, extreme political beliefs, extreme dietary beliefs, these are not going to get you where you want to go for the most part. They're going to get you in trouble, right? So that intuitive aspect, the intention to optimize your health, like, this data just like I do, like blue zones, right? Don't eat any meat. Oh, wait, most of them eat meat. Don't drink any alcohol. Wait, most of them drink alcohol. Don't smoke. Most of them have pretty high smoking rates too, what is the key for all of this that you're so good at is creating and being inside of a community.
That's right.
Of feeling community, love, acceptance, understanding. That is the key. You don't have to be with all people all the time. You can feel very, we call it like alone but never lonely kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're comfortable in your own skin, you don't need a lot of people all the time. In fact, people can drain you, but that's a different story. But in general, you live a long time, not because of all the biohacking shit you do. It's because of how connected you feel to you, your avatar, and to the community around you. And so everything else, if you don't have that, there's only so far you're going to go, is what it comes down to.
So reminds me of Red Fox, the comedian. He had this line that said, health nuts are going to feel stupid one day, lying in the hospital beds, dying of nothing. So
I love that. That's good.
I think it really pertains to this. I don't know if orthorexia is the word or it's the obsession with longevity while losing the ideology of being a qualitarian and focusing on your quality of life. And I think maybe intentionality is lost. And a lot of people, I think they just have this incredible fear of death that they actually don't live.
Yeah, it's a big one, right? That's why death is such a big part of almost every Eastern tradition, right? Mm-hmm. Is to actually think about death every single day in some way or shape or form. If I die right now, right? If I die right now, right? And having these, and so we're a fear-based culture, like you said, right? And that's what sells. Fear sells. We should have started this podcast with something fearful, right? But fear sells.
You'll die if you don't listen to the end of this episode.
If you don't listen to the end.
You'll also die if you do listen to the end of this episode.
That's going to happen either way. It's true. It's a good point. It's a very good point. I think, it's something that I try to, again, I think you would probably resonate with this particular quotes from a book that I like. And it's, you teach best what you need to learn the most, which means that
amen.
We're in these two chairs talking about this is because we're living this stuff too, right?
That's right.
We've been there or we are there. We've done that or we're doing it. And then that's just, I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means of the stretch. And that's why I'm having this conversation with you is because this is my, karma. This is my trial of this stuff. And to talk about this stuff is to live through this stuff and to be this stuff and to have my own experiences and be able to talk about it. Right. And so, just like the addict who becomes a counselor, right?
That's right.
It's the same deal. Like they know what the shit you went through, and they may fall off the wagon again and go back to drinking. That's just the nature of these things. And that's okay.
And one of the things I admire about your particular situation is its relatability, where you're not the 20-year-old fitness influencer with, no wife, no kids, no business sitting here saying, look what works great for me. This is easy. ABCD done.
Yeah.
You're what I like to call somebody who's signed up for the expert level of the video game of life.
I didn't know I did, but you can resonate with this, right?
Right.
So, but that makes it interesting. And I think living the experience and being here to have the capacity to communicate the experience is something I feel very grateful for. I love the chaos of what I've expertly video gamed myself. I don't know, it's just like the chaos is there and it's real, right? But it's a journey and it's fun too.
So in the video game, if we take Mario Brothers as an example,
sure.
Right? In the beginning, it's really easy. There's not many obstacles. You can just jump on top of a couple turtles and you're cool. But after that, you get what? You get stars. You get mushrooms. Gee, I wonder why they chose that.
Love it. That's the
and then you get a flying raccoon tail after you've had the mushrooms.
I love it. Yeah.
So you've created some products that are a little bit like that, a little unfair advantage.
Sure.
And again, because of your open-mindedness to not listen to what the mainstream says is this is a must, this is not, you've gotten involved in what I think is fascinating, two things that are completely unique. One being hyperbarics and the other being methylene blue. So I'd love to drop in a little bit on those two kind of simultaneously, maybe starting first with the hyperbarics.
Well, I'm going to navigate you to the product company, the transcriptions company,
Yeah.
because you gave me a great segue. The mushroom
Yeah,
in Mario Brothers
Yeah.
is the Amanita mushroom,
that's right.
the Amanita muscaria mushroom.
Uh-huh.
This is a well-known mushroom as the mushroom of potentially Santa Claus and Christmas.
Right.
It's also a mushroom that gives psychedelic experiences.
Yeah.
Not the kind of you get like a psilocybin experience. It's more, it's less hallucinogenic, supposedly.
Mhm.
I've never had one. But so if you lived in Siberia, you would see reindeers eating these mushrooms and tripping balls. And
That's right.
then they started having shaman, and all these kinds of things. The mushroom itself is toxic. It's neurotoxic because it has an ingredient called ibotenic acid in it. But there's another ingredient in there, Kyle. It's called agrin or muscimol. And that one's a long-acting agonist of the GABA receptor. So we have agrin in two of our products at Transcriptions, one called Troz, one called Trocom. And these are both enhancing the GABA system. So Trocom has, actually doesn't have agrin. Trocom has another ingredient, but Troz has agrin in it. And agrin is a long-acting molecule on the GABA receptor. So we use it for sleep in combination with other things that work on the GABA system. And then other ways to support neurotransmitters when you sleep as well. So funny you mentioned Mario Brothers in that case.
Yeah.
And so this psychedelic mushroom translates to a compound that's not psychedelic at low doses, that's fantastic on the GABA system, help with anxiety, help with stress, and help with sleep. And so in my world, what has seemed to happen all the time is this transition from a clinical problem or a clinical challenge, understanding what other solutions we can create. And this is not just me. I work with a very smart group of people. I mentioned Dr. Ted earlier, Dr. Ted Achacoso. He's the founder of our nonprofit called Health Optimization Medicine and our for-profit company called Transcriptions. And the Transcriptions company develops product to help people right now while they're on the longer path to optimizing their health. And Health Optimization Medicine is a nonprofit that trains practitioners on how to navigate that path with clients and how to understand a framework that can really do that. And so Transcriptions develops products that help people right now. So with sleep, with stress, with immune system function, with energy, with focus. And that's how we came along with the methylene blue thing as well.
Right.
Because methylene blue works in the mitochondria to help the cells work better. And it helps with the mitochondria with energy, helps with detoxification. And so we have a number of products that are really working on that cellular level to work on energy, detoxification, inflammation. And so great performance advantages in any spectrum of where you are in the health journey. If you're autoimmune, if you're chronically inflamed, it's going to help you there. If you're on the more elite, more athletic side, it's going to help with endurance. It's going to help with performance with methylene blue specifically. So that whole ecosystem was developed as a way to, move the needle on health, both right now for people and also over the long term. So that's the kind of the framework with the transcriptions and health optimization side of things.
I love it. So it's really interesting. A lot of people will say, methylene blue, what is it? My genes, my fish tank, but you're putting this thing in your body. And that's not science. And the first thing I'll always say is some of the most incredible science comes from some of the wildest open minds ever, right? Like, let's take the venom of a Gila lizard and hey, look what it does for us. And it's part of the, oneness consciousness in some capacity. Tell me a little bit about methylene blue specifically, around the idea of, you said a lot of these people just put stuff into their system, like Russian roulette, but you have the ability to look under the hood. It seems like methylene blue has that universal benefit for most. How would somebody know if it's a good product for them? And as far as mitochondrial function, what is it really actually doing in our bodies? Sure.
Yeah. So methylene blue has been around a long time. It's been around since the 1870s. It's a very well understood compound. It was the first fully synthetic drug made ever. And it was the first drug that was registered by our FDA in 1897. And so it's been around a long time. And in the beginning, it was used as an antimicrobial mostly because at higher doses, it's anti-infective. And so it treats urinary tract infections and viral infections and fungal infections and things like that. And so what we now know, fast forward 100 years later, is that it is fantastically supportive for the mitochondria. Now, I should mention the synthetic thing, because I mentioned it's a synthetic drug. Many people, like, I had one lady, she's like, I'm granola. I don't take anything that's not from the ground. I'm like, what about the lights you're under right now? What about the water you're getting out of the tap?
Right.
What about the food that's coming from packages that you're getting from the store? We're not living in natural worlds anymore.
Nope.
We live in synthetic worlds. And sometimes we need synthetic things to help us. And if you're pretty well optimized, you may not need to have methylene blue, very often, because you're pretty well optimized, the mitochondria are working very well. But if you're not very well optimized, it could be a transformative stimulus for that mitochondria to work better.
Right.
And so what I'm talking about here is the mitochondria, right? The mitochondria are the part of our cells that make energy. We have some cells in our body that have just one mitochondria, sometimes zero, actually, the red blood cells. We have other cells in our body that have thousands of mitochondria per cell. And so your eggs, if you're female, sperm male, your brain, your heart, your liver, your musculoskeletal tissue, these have thousands of mitochondria. We have quadrillions of these in our body, quadrillions. And so we have huge amounts. And this is because we have to make a shit ton of energy every single day to keep us alive. We make about 150 pounds of energy called ATP every single day.
Wow.
And so, but the problem is that most of us can't meet our energetic demands anymore. 94% of the US adult population has some element of mitochondrial dysfunction. So it's only 6% are metabolically healthy. And so what methylene blue can do here, so maybe I should talk about symptoms. So what are the symptoms we're talking about? Like if your fertility rates, they're not going up, they're going down.
Right.
Mental health disorders, brain fog, concentration issues, attention issues, memory issues. This is all related to mitochondrial dysfunction of the brain. Cardiac issues, musculoskeletal issues with pain or with discomfort after exercise that last for days and days. So you have 94% of US adults that have some element of mitochondrial dysfunction. So if you have chronic fatigue, if you have fibromyalgia, if you have long COVID, if you have an autoimmune problem, if you have a chronic viral infection, if you have certain medications you're taking all the time that could affect mitochondrial function, if you have toxins in your environment, like from pollutants and chemicals and detergents and other kinds of things, if you're insulin resistant, so if you have high blood sugars, that's also causing mitochondrial stress.
Right.
So insulin resistance is like 75% of the US population. So it's a huge amount. So where methylene blue comes in is that can help compensate for that mitochondrial stress by helping you make more energy,
right,
and also helping you with detoxification. So there's very few things in life, in the world, that help with both energy and detoxification at the same time. You can take an antioxidant, you take like vitamin C or glutathione or something like that. Cool. That's an antioxidant. That could be helpful, but it's not helping you with energy.
No.
So classic example is that you're doing like a detox protocol and you're taking binders and you're taking antioxidants and you feel like shit. You feel terrible because you're detoxing. But if you add some methylene blue to that, all of a sudden you're getting more energy at the same time. So you don't feel like shit. You actually feel pretty good. So you can take it before you go into your sauna and then you're sweating your butt off and then you're taking your binders and your glutathione, all that kind of thing. But now you have the energy support at the same time. So you don't feel like shit when you get out. And so the nice thing about methylene blue is that you have more energy and you have more detoxification at the same time. So the way I like to describe it is that our cells are like gasoline powered cars. We make energy, we make ATP, but we also make waste products. We make carbon dioxide, we make water. We also make what are called reactive oxygen species, or ROS, or free radicals. The body's supposed to have antioxidants in there so that we can neutralize that so it doesn't become an issue. But unfortunately, many of us are antioxidant deficient. And so methylene blue is more like an electric powered car. It gives you more energy, but there's no waste because it takes up and compensates for any energy that it makes on its own. And so as a result of that, you get energy without the stress. And that's huge, especially people that are coming from a pretty significant issue or a place where they're chronically ill and fatigued and brain fogged and things like that, where you give them a little bit of methylene blue, it can go a huge way to giving them the support they need without additional stress. But the key is very low doses of methylene blue. We're talking like 4 milligrams to 25 milligrams or so, like super low doses. I'm getting very clean sources of methylene blue because methylene blue can be contaminated with heavy metals like lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic, which you don't want if you're taking it to support your health.
Right.
And then you want to get something that's going to be highly potent and not, something that says on the label something, but actually is very, very not that.
Heavy diluted and hasn't been third-party tested.
Yeah, like liquids are terrible overall, unfortunately, because most liquids, what we've tested, the potency is nowhere near what it says on the label. So, and then the other thing that drives me bonkers is somebody comes and chats with me, hey, Scott, I'm taking 10 drops of methylene blue 5 times a day. And I feel terrible. I'm like, well, what's the milligram dosing? And they have no idea, right? Because they're taking like a number of drops. I'm like, the drops are so inaccurate. They're so imprecise that I just have no idea. So we use something called a troche, which is a dissolvable lozenge. It's scored. It goes into, so it's cut up so you can take a quarter, half, or full of it. And you know exactly how much you're getting every single time. So the key with methylene blue is quality and the dosing and understanding how long or how much you're going to need depending on where you're starting.
One of the things I think consumers don't understand is that there is no regulation on serving sizes. Serving sizes are made up by the company. You know, I manufactured a meal replacement shake for 17 years and we got to choose what our serving size is. And a company can sit down and be like, serving size, 3/4 of a bottle. The bottle has no cap. You crack it open. You can't just leave the thing sitting there, but they can make it that way so they can manipulate the outcome in the data based on whatever they want.
Yep. And then supplement companies have no regulatory oversight at all.
Right.
In the sense you could make something in your garage today and then put your name up on a store on Shopify or Etsy and then sell your shit. Right. And so there are really no regulations. So it's up to the companies to regulate themselves if they choose to, and then up to the consumer to be very, very picky about what you're actually going to use.
That's right.
Because do you know the company? Do you know what kind of things that they're doing to actually make sure that their supplements are what they say? Do they have a certificate of analysis? Are they testing their products? And so, you know, at our company, like we are above and beyond what's necessary because we want to make sure every single time we're making exactly what we want to make with as few issues as possible.
Right.
And we've had to throw out, you know, thousands of dollars worth of stuff over the years because it didn't meet our specifications.
And people need to humanize this whole process and not focus on, well, this is a company with a big name. What I like to do is say, okay, who's running the show here? Where is their moral, ethical integrity? What do they stand behind? They are a father who will have their children utilize these products.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. I also want to kind of dig in and double down on what you said about synthetics. So I was the, all I eat is organic, everything absolutely perfect sort of guy. And I started looking at synthetics and I'm in a trifecta. I had 3 separate moments that changed my opinion on synthetics. The first was when I was darn near death. I'm in the ICU with sepsis and they started shoving every antibiotic in my body.
Please.
And I said, thank you to save my life.
Yeah.
Right. I jokingly now say I'm not going to go to a medicine man or shaman like myself. I'm in the middle of a heart attack.
Please don't. Right.
Right. Second, my daughter got me on one. She goes, Dad, what's more important to you? My daughter, Ava's 14, and she's probably about 11 at the time. She goes, what's more important to you? Nature or Western medicine? And I was like, nature, of course. And she's like, Dad, if it wasn't for synthetic insulin as a type 1 diabetic, I'd be dead right now. Whew, that one spun me.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And then the third was things like LSD or MDMA, incredible synthetic compounds that, yes, do occur in nature in some capacity.
Sure.
But everything to me comes down to quality and intention. And that is where the synthetic game is incredible. And if you want to take it to the highest spiritual level, we are all one thing. And technically, there's no such thing as synthetic versus natural because there is no polarity in the world. There is a thing, which is all of us. So you can take it that high. And if you're using the spiritual justification, you've got oneness consciousness here. So what is a synthetic actually, if it all exists in the all? Which, again, is a pretty far rabbit hole that
Amen, brother.
Alice has walked down, which I think is a pretty interesting. The whole movie's just a big mushroom trip anyway. So.
Indeed. That's the best description that I've heard for the comparison between synthetic and natural. So thank you for that.
Well, please feel free to spread the word on that because my pliability, a lot of, you know, what we've gotten into today is the idea of being like water and not having dogma around our religion, whether or not a religion is our politics now, which is becoming the new religion, whether or not a religion is our food, our belief systems around our food and everything, is having that pliability and that curiosity and that openness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what got you to the point of creating some pretty unique, incredible products. Where do you think, as this visionary, where do you think the future of performance medicine is going to be in about 10 years?
This is a very difficult one, but I think you and I have had these conversations, right? Where biohacking is dead, and I think that, I mean that in a very nice way.
Yeah.
It should die because it's not the answer, but it's a step in the answer, right? Which is that people are more interested in their own biology, and they're more interested in how their biology is integrated into this ecosystem, right? And so where I think things are really going is this super hyper personalized approach and data driven way of understanding your own health. Like there is it's kind of a complicated concept, but let me try to break it down briefly, which is that we know we have genes,
right,
that make proteins. We know there's steps along the way to make the proteins. We know that the proteins make other kind of molecules so you have all these steps along the way of your journey, from your genes to actually what's manifesting in you right now, right? And we can measure a lot of this. We can measure our genome, our transcriptome, our proteome, our metabolome, our epigenome. These are all various things that we're going to be able to measure. And there's actually a funny term for this called the narcissome. So knowing everything about all these various levels is going to be amazingly impactful at our capacity to understand in real time what's happening with our biology, which I think is going to be transformative, right?
Nice.
But that's not and while that's happening, this sort of resurgence of universal consciousness, right? The idea of us bringing everything to a higher plane together. That's where I hope things will go, where like, it's not just one or the other, it's a marrying of these things together. Right. And like, people on the consciousness side, like, no, man, it's all energy. I'm like, yeah, but like, let's measure some shit. Right. Because like, maybe if you're like a guru and like you have, you're completely enlightened, it doesn't matter, but most people aren't going to get there. Most people are already there, but they don't know it, but that's a different story. But anyway, marrying these two worlds of the consciousness world, that side, along with this hyper personalized approach with data, and then and then maybe even bringing that data down to deeper levels of bioenergetics and things like that. When we have better understanding of how to use that, I think that's where I hope things will go.
I love it. I agree. And I saw an astrophysicist who was running the Transcendental Meditation Group do a presentation of the two routes to the same thing, which is love and mathematics. And it was brilliant. And it was such an interesting way of looking at it. And that both of them serve their place. It's like the right and left hemisphere of the brain. And in your opinion, looking at the sympathetic spiral of doom and looking at where we're going and where we're headed, what's the first step? Somebody's listening today and they're like, wow, this blew my mind. I'm ready to walk on the moon. What's my first step back to harmony?
What do they say in addiction? The first step is to acknowledge you have a problem.
Yes.
I think that's the easy out for an answer. I think what it comes down to is that there's a way to do things that you have been doing that keeps you doing the things that you're doing and keeps you on that path. There's another way that's not separate from that way, but it's just a deeper understanding that there's something underneath foundationally that is possible to find, the ground of being, as we say, right? Which can allow that everything else on top of that to work a whole lot more in flow and understanding, right? So most of us are living in one thought to the next thought, to the next thought, to the next thought, then the next thing, to the next thing. And so if we can bring it back down to this level of like the base, of this sort of the ground of being, as I said, like that's the place where I hope all of us can understand things from a little bit better. This is my own personal journey too, right? Which is like, being from there makes everything else a game, you know? But like if we're getting stuck in the emotions and the things and the whatever, like that's where we get lost, right? So most of us are doing that. That's because our brains are not evolved to a place where we're thinking about really anything but survival and reproduction. That's what our egos are letting us, or just throwing us around on a day-to-day basis. So I think the first thing is that, hypothetically admit you have a problem, but that's going to be harder for most people. Most people don't think they have a problem. And so I think the next thing is just bring things into your life that create space from your mind. And if you do that, that's the first step, I think.
I love it. And I think a lot of times when people are bringing those things into their awareness, they're not focused with enthusiasm on bringing those things into their life. They're focusing way too much on the, I can't have this, I can't have this. They're on the, I can't have, I can't do, I can't enjoy diet. And
these are good stories.
Yeah. And I really think you hit it there, which is like, what can I bring into my life that is nourishing, grounding, rooting, that can start building that strong base. And that strong base, just like in martial arts, is everything. So love it. Appreciate it. Thank you. So if somebody's listening today, they're excited. They want to try your products. They've got a little know, like, trust factor here, which they should. I love the way you view things, and I love your products as well. What's the greatest way to connect with you, follow you, and check some of these great products out?
The funny thing about the products is what I always say is that I hope they help you now and you don't need them later. And that's the crazy thing about being in this world, is that I have companies that I truly care about. I have companies that we've created together as a team that have amazing missions. But in the end, the hope is that you can do a lot of this on your own, that you've optimized your health in ways that don't require supplements to help you or products to help you. But
that's right.
We have a company called Transcriptions that has remedies, has solutions for you right now for energy, for focus, something called Just Blue, which is our pure methylene blue. We have something called blue carnitine, which is a combination of methylene blue with a couple other things, including caffeine and nicotine, which is another interesting molecule. And then we have things on the GABA side, which is things that calm down the nervous system, that get you into that parasympathetic state. Trocom and Troz, put the brakes on, make you feel like what it felt like to be into that parasympathetic state. And so Transcriptions is a place to go. We also have a nonprofit called Health Optimization Medicine and Practice. It's homehope.org is the website. Transcriptions.com. You can find them on the socials at Transcriptions at homehope.org. For me personally, you can find me at my website. It's Dr. Scott Sherr. My name, Dr. DrScottSherr.com. You can find me there. You can find my hyperbaric consulting there. You can find my health optimization medicine practice there. You can find my Transcriptions company there. Links to other companies and other websites and things like that too.
Beautiful, beautiful. And thank you for spending the time today.
My pleasure, Kyle. It was
so
good,
much fun. I love being able to drop in with you on this, because I know you're truly a medicine doctor who understands first do no harm. And that's rare. It's not the ends justifies the means. So I really appreciate that. So my take on all this is that we're not here to conquer the body. We're here to cooperate with it. And that's really where the real performance is. And I think you just hit that home out of the park in a way that just laid out, what are we here to do? And what is the intention behind all of this? And this is an improved quality of life. And to me, it's all about being a qualitarian in your food, in your thoughts, in your supplements, in your life. And I applaud that you not only do this in your work, but you're also doing it in your travel of the world. And the things you're seeing is that you're squeezing everything out of it. So it's really fun to watch. So thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, my friend, if this episode sparked something in you, don't just wander off into the abyss of the internet. Hit subscribe so you can actually get the good stuff when it drops. And if you're feeling generous or mildly enlightened, leave some love in a review. It takes just 30 seconds, and somehow it feeds the algorithm gods so they notice and more people who really need it. Now, if you want to step deeper into my world, rapidharmony.com is where the real magic lives. Coaching, community, rituals, and a few surprises that are way better than just scrolling around another motivational reel and not doing anything about it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. And remember, your inner harmony isn't hiding. It's just waiting for you to pay attention. I'll see you on the next episode. Now go subscribe before you forget.